Thanks, Gerd, for that interesting talk. We can learn a lot about the new word, and from what we hear in your presentation, I would like to ask you, in a hyper technological world, how we do embrace technology instead of become in technology, how we protect the human factor.
Yeah, well, there is some protection that we have to do ourselves. For example, we may not use an iPad for our children all the time, only sometimes, like we used to do with television. Or we go out to eat with a family without the mobile phone, and things like that. And then there's some protection that the state and the government and the companies have to do. For example, data protection, face recognition, unfair practices of, for example, hiring. So when you use technology to read my face when I do an interview, things like that. So it's a mix of things. Basically, I always say the more we connect, the more we have to protect what makes us human. Because when you are not connected, then many things are bad. You can't do business, you can't talk. That's not good. But when you're over-connected, you have too much, you can get sick. Like sick in the sense of lonely, of course, but also physically sick by constantly being somewhere else. Changing like what gaming addiction has in Korea. Now people are addicted to Instagram, and it's a disease. It's kind of like what I call digital obesity. Getting digitally too much. And so it's up to us, but not only. It's also up to the state, and it's up to the companies. And for example, Apple is doing something in this regard by showing people how much they use the device, is to have some sort of normal life that goes on despite that you're always connected.
We need to have this information. That's why it's collaborative work between public and private institutions and academia is so important.
Yes, well, I think basically what is happening is that technology and connectivity is finally actually working. We talked about this for a long time, and for example, 15 years ago, you could not listen to a song on the internet on a mobile phone. It just wasn't enough power. And now that's working everywhere. So the children in the country can now listen to YouTube or Spotify or whatever they want to watch, right? And that changes our culture. Right? So we have to be careful to balance humanity, which is not about data. Humans are not about data. Humans are about experiences, relationships, meaning. They're much more on a mixed level, not just a data level. And humans aren't machines. So we have to be very careful that we use the benefit, but we don't get too much of the benefit. It's like eating or drinking or smoking or like any other kind of a drug in a way. You could say technology can be a drug.
Yes, yes. Can you name us three key elements of this new mindset you talk about in your keynote?
Yeah, the future mindset is so important because we used to think of the future as being far away, like Star Trek or, a Blade Runner or, but the reality is that the future is here. I mean, even in the remote jungles in the world, we're now getting internet and 5G mobile phone very soon. And we used to think of the future as 10, 15, 20, 50 years, but now the future is here. So we have devices we can speak, and then it comes out in 5 other languages. We can order our coffee before we go around the corner. We can talk for free on the mobile phone. And even if you're not rich, those benefits are everywhere now. And the devices are getting cheaper. So basically, the future mindset needs to understand that we're leaping into the future. We're not going stepwise. Humans are always stepwise. Like, I meet you one day, I meet you the second day, I meet you the third day. It's linear. But machines are not like this. So technology, Moore's law, Metcalfe's law, is leaping. Right? 4, 8, 16, and then every 12 months, every 10 months, every 8 months. So 10 years from now, it's 256 as far from today. And our children are going to live in a world that's hard to imagine. For example, they'll be able to work through the mobile phone anywhere in the world, doing online work, whether it's teaching or calculating or financial services or selling, right? Many jobs that don't exist today will be completely normal. So basically what you have to say the future is important because the future isn't far away. The future can happen next week or next year or 5 years, but probably not 50 years. That's why it's so important that CEOs understand the future, company leaders, and of course politicians, public officials. I always say that public officials should have a driver's license for the future, because the future is no longer like a theory, like what you can see what's happening with energy. We talked about renewable energy for 50 years, never really happened, and all of a sudden we are here where renewable energy, sustainable energy, Chile is a very big example for this, right? This is going to be the new normal. So it's very important to develop a mindset around this.
So this mindset could work for any countries, developing economies, starting countries too? We can use that
Oh,
then?
absolutely. Well, I think basically the developing countries, that's a very bad name, actually. For me is that these are maybe developing economies of a sort, but basically your country, for example, is leaping in many other ways, and because of the geographical position, it has other challenges than other countries. Like, for example, global warming will be a bigger topic around you, not so much for Chile, but also for Chile, but around you. So basically, a lot of countries are getting into this kind of like a leaping effect, right? So first there was no internet, no mobile phone, no television, no radio, and then the kids are on YouTube and Instagram leaping, right? And they're studying online. And so this is really important, I think, for developing countries and for countries where you have a new economy, is to not copy the old economy like America, because it's not going to work. Right? So Chile, for example, has to go into an economy that is completely already in the new place, where maybe America will have a hard time getting there even. And that's the opportunity, of course, is to leap.
Yes, it's an opportunity. The last question, how important is the collaborative and interdisciplinary work for this new mindset?
Yeah, I always talk about the good future when I talk about the mindset, because we all want a good future, right? We want to live well, we want to have children, we want to have rights, we want to get to a good future, not starve and not die, and So if we want a good future, it is highly dependent on our collaboration. Because the thing is that, we will have all of the tools, and the science is exploding. So the private sector and education and research, that's growing very nicely, right? And then business has to embrace the concepts and the possibilities, and then government has to be the balancing between the people and the possibilities, right? So basically it will take four parties, the consumers, the government, the business, and then education and training and universities and research to create a good future all together. And that's why it's so important that we have events like this where we talk about what that means and how we're going to get to a good future. We're not going to get to a good future only with business, because business is about growing revenues. Right? And we're not going to get to a good future just with research, right? Because we need policy decisions. So it's very important to collaborate.
Okay, Gerd, thank you very much for this interesting conversation, and I hope you could visit us soon.
Yes, I hope so too. Give me an excuse and I'll be there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Live long and prosper.